Hey guys, this is Dominic, and this is my journey of making my multiplayer archery game that took me just over a month to develop. So in this video, I'll try not to go too in depth, and I'll try focus more on the creative and interesting parts of this project. But for those who are interested in networking games, I'll quickly just say that I created my own networking solution on top of Steam peer-to-peer, and yeah, let's just say it's definitely been the biggest part of this project. Okay, so let's talk about how this project started. At the start, I built my networking solution on top of Unity transport layer, which worked well, but I soon realized that I didn't want to have to deal with dedicated servers. So I decided I would need to switch to Steam peer-to-peer, which allows players to host their own games. And so I didn't destroy my brother's project while I was gutting the code. I set up a basic Unity project to test my networking code while I was updating it. And a week later, I had somewhat of a PvP archery game. So I thought I may as well make this into an actual game, and for some reason I thought I'd be able to finish this game in 2 weeks, which of course was not the case. So why did I choose to develop a medieval archery game? I guess it's simple. Archery combat is my favourite way to play any game. I mean Zelda, bow. Far Cry, bow. Overwatch, bow. So I wanted a game that was focused on archery gameplay, and I wanted a beautiful environment like Wind Waker, which is not hard but definitely time consuming, and we'll talk more about it soon. So the first task of my multiplayer game was of course to make a character. So I modeled the character in Blender, which was probably a little inspired by Link, and I stole the rig from the Space Knight character because most of the animations we had created were on this rig. I then set up the animation blend tree for movement animations, and I set the layer to only control the lower half of his body. I created a script for moving the player on input and controlling the animation blend tree. And of course, because any game feels empty without it, I gave the player the option to sprint by creating a sprint animation and coding the player to be able to run when moving in a forwards direction. Instead of giving the player the option to crouch, I created a dodge roll animation and coded him to do a dodge roll in the direction he is moving when control is pressed. And finally, to stop the player from spamming dodge roll or constantly running, I created an energy bar which sprinting and dodge roll consumes, and the energy slowly regenerates. The next task, and probably my favourite, was to code the actual archery. So like most archery games, I coded the left mouse button to draw and release the arrow, and I coded the right click to cancel. I used an animation blend tree to go from idle to fully drawn, and I created a script to bend his spine when the player looks up or down. Lastly, I created these pretty cool looking head effects, and I added a trail to the arrow. Networking the game was definitely the biggest task, and it did take me longer than I thought to get the player's health, the movement, the arrows, animations, effects, and all the other features all syncing. And the hardest part of all of this was trying to ensure the server was authoritative, which essentially just ensures players can't do crazy things like run at 100 times the normal speed. I could probably talk for quite a while about the other huge networking tasks like client prediction and lag compensation and a network animator component I made, but I guess I did say I wouldn't go too in depth, and it probably deserves its own video. Now, every good game has a melee attack, which is pretty much a way to humiliate your enemy, so of course I had to add this to my game. At first I was just going to have the player thrust the nail forwards for the melee attack, but it didn't feel or look very good, so I decided to add everyone's favourite weapon. I created a sword swing left and right animation, set it up in the blend tree, and then coded V to perform the melee attack. So the game sounds. I created some of the sounds myself, and I got some from Free Sounds and blended them together. To edit my audio, I used Audacity, which I'm pretty sure is every indie developer's favourite sound editor. The most interesting sounds I probably made were the sword swing sound and the bow release sound. I made the bow release sound by blending a bouncy string sound from Free Sound and recording a whistle sound. And I created the sword swing sound by using a cloak hanger and swinging it fast past the mic. The hit enemy sound is also just a recording of me stabbing an apple with a fork, which turned out quite well. Okay, so finally we got to the stage where I had to create the map. It took me quite a while to make a map that I was somewhat happy with, but it still feels like it's more of a display of my assets and not really a map. So I'll probably make a new map in the future, but for now this will do. I initially modeled and textured all my assets with a color palette, but then realized that the game assets just needed a bit more detail. So I created textures for a lot of my assets where gradients just weren't cutting it. I also learned how to make these pretty cool looking trees by following this tutorial I found, which was only 1 minute, and I also found a tutorial to move the leaves by using a shader graph. I created these boughs using Blender and GIMP to texture, which I think suit the game's toon graphics very well. And although it looks hand painted, I actually just created one texture for the plank and have the other planks share it. One of the last game assets I made was the windmills. To create these I used color palettes and textures, and to make the blades rotate I separated them in Blender and attached a script to rotate the blades. The last task for this game was the main menu. I decided to keep it simple and just scatter the weapons on the ground and have fog and leaves pass over the weapons, which I think looks pretty cool. I created a host panel to allow players to start games and change the game settings. I then created the join lobby where players can join any games that have been hosted. At the moment there is only one game mode that works, but in the future I plan to add team elimination and other game modes. So what is next for this game? I actually started creating a Steam page for the game so users could start wishlisting it, but I decided not to bother because I'm probably going to improve some of the game graphics in the future, and I plan to expand my scope with some more combat features and game maps. So that's it guys, let me know if you guys have any ideas and be sure to check out my brother's devlogs on this channel. Thanks for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe.